Out of all the songs inspired by a Lord Tennyson poem about the Crimean War, Jesse's Girl by Rick Springfield is my favorite. Close second is The Trooper by Iron Maiden. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. We're going to focus on 3 parts, and I think it's a great lesson in learning your modes of the major or minor scale, chords, and harmonies and stuff like that too, right? So we're going to focus on these 3 parts. I'm going to loop them together right now, and the gist of it sounds like this. Fantastic song. Iron Maiden, fantastic band, all great players, and they really knew what they were doing, and that's why I think they're a great study in music theory. So even though this isn't really a lesson on how to play the whole song, because these 3 parts actually don't happen together one time, they change a lot, we're going to focus in on these 3 parts and see the theory behind it, right? So the first part is the one that goes like this. Okay, so this is a really great lesson in learning your modes of the major scale to kind of find the chords behind this, right? So let's just kind of like learn the frets first. So we start on 7A, which is an E, okay? And we're gonna hit this. So 3 times. 1, 2, 3, pull off to 5, and then land on 7E. So we're gonna repeat that same shape on the D, which is 2 frets back, the 5th fret of the A string. And then we're going to do a very similar shape on the 3rd fret of the A string. The only difference is instead of going 2 frets back for that pull-off, we're going 1 fret back. And then we're going to slide into back to the beginning. Okay? So now when I said the modes of the major scale, or just the modes in general, a lot of people think that, you know, learning the positions of the major scale is different than learning modes. I kind of see them as the exact same thing, and this is kind of like one way that it can be helpful. Now, applying the modes is a different thing. This isn't like a modal piece. This is actually in E minor, right? And Satchel from Steel Panther has one of my favorite quotes about E minor. If you see a gnarly looking dude with long hair and a guitar, he's probably playing in E minor. And this is definitely the case right here, okay? So E minor, if you know the E minor scale, if this is the E, the 7th fret on the A string, that shape, that minor scale shape would look like this. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, we can make this riff from those notes, that interval, but we start by going backwards. If you know the minor scale, a minor 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right here, if you octave down, you go 2 frets. So 2 frets lower than any fret is going to be a minor 7, okay? So we have a root to its minor 7, and then it's 5th below, right? So when I say it's 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, octave down, there's its 5th. So root, minor 7, 5th. And that takes the place of a minor chord, right? We can play the same thing as a chord, it's like, and that's kind of like a, you know, a chord version of it. Now, we do the same thing, back 2 frets. So you might think that we're starting on a D, that this is a D minor chord, but it's not, it's actually a D major chord. And the way we know this is because we know kind of our degrees in the major scale, right? So even though it's in E major, or E minor, I kind of think in G major, because G major and E minor are the exact same notes, and the chords that populate them are the same, right? So for all intents and purposes, educationally, it can be the same thing, right? So I think of this as a 6-5-4 progression, right? If you look at the notes of G major, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G again, the 6th note, the relative minor, is E. And if you don't know what relative minor is, I'll link you to a video I did just on relative minor to explain it a little bit. But basically, E is the relative minor of G, okay? So we start on the 6th chord, and since we go back, like if we look at the notes of G major, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's that E. 6, 5, 4, okay? Now, again, if you watch some of the chord building videos, we're kind of bringing this all together. That 5th note is going to be a major chord, and that's where this mode position kind of comes in. Mixolydian would be the mode that goes on this D note, and Mixolydian's shape looks like this. So even though we had this root to a minor 7 to its 5th, and we repeated this on D's spot, it's it's actually not a minor chord. We're actually not playing the third in this chord, and that's what gives it its major or minor class. We're playing the flat 7 of a D, of a 5 chord, of a D dominant 7 chord. Even though it's, for all intents and purposes, the exact same shape as this E minor, D7, D dominant 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So again, I'm also going to link you to a video on modes that I did, because this is kind of like a great song to kind of start putting all this stuff together, right? So we've got this little minor thing to this, we can call it a Mixolydian thing, even though it's not modal, but it's the 5 chord. To the 4 chord, which is a C, which is also major. And here, this is a major 7. Now, if you look at the C Lydian scale, the 4th mode, that scale position would be here. So if you look at the 7th note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you'll see the 7 is just a half step behind the root note. So the 4 chord has a major 7. So we have root, major 7, 5th. So root, minor 7, 5th. Root, minor 7, 5th. Root, major 7, 5th. Back to the start. Okay? Now, the cool thing about Iron Maiden is these guitar players like work flawlessly together, and they're so in sync with what each other's doing, it's going to bring us to harmony, right? So when I looped that first part, the first one was that riff over and over again. And then the second guitar that comes in, I think it's after 2 times around, sounds like this. And it might be played on a different part of the neck, I'm not really sure, but basically the notes are the same, right? And what we're doing is we're stacking these intervals together with each other, right? So the way to harmonize another part in a guitar part like this, like a 2-guitar kind of attack thing, is we can think modally, like in those same things, right? Like if we start here, this is actually kind of going through this kind of, I'm thinking of this of like a G major shape, coming backwards through it, and then just harmonizing over the first chord. So when the first guitar is going through the E minor thing, the second guitar is adding this harmony, adding notes to it. And the way you can kind of see what maybe they were thinking, I mean, I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly what they were thinking, but if one guitar is doing this E, and the other one is playing this G, they're kind of combining to make this E minor chord. And then the second note, the first riff goes to a D, and the second riff goes backwards through the scale, right? So we're both going one note back in the scale at the same time. Now if we played them both at the same time, it would be a... And then we can go one step further. This is an E in the second riff. In the first riff, it's a B. Now the B on the A string will be right here. So the second riff and the first riff will combine to make this E minor kind of couple right here, right? So if we play both at the same time, it would sound like this. So just a real quick example, slowed down, really slow of this part. So I mean that was kind of off time just because it's so slow, but basically you get the idea of how they work together. Now the last part I want to talk about is the... And how this is kind of within a scale or a chord shape, right? So we said this is an E minor, and that part, that little like trill, awesome classic riff, I think is kind of based around this voicing of an E minor chord. So if you get the 7th fret on the A string, 9th fret of the D string, 9th fret of the G string, and the 8th fret of the B string, you have E minor, which this is in the key of E minor, the relative minor of G major, right? And then we're just kind of dancing around within this. So if you can kind of see it as a chord, which I've just got my middle finger and I'm hammering on pulling off from the 7th to the 8th fret. 3 of those. So we have the 8th fret on the B string, 1, 2, 3, and then all the way to the top, which is a B, which is the top of this chord, the highest note of this E minor chord. And then back to that note again, right? Which this is the minor 3rd of E, right? So we've got then another trill. And then we have the octave E right here. And that last part right there is 7G, 8B, 7G, 9G, which is just an octave higher of, right? Exact same notes. So basically those 3 parts are, and there are more harmony parts in this song, but those are just kind of like examples of how you can maybe take a chord, learn the major scale shape or the mode behind it to harmonize another chord, and then to kind of put like a melody on top of like a solo lead part using a chord voicing over all these different things. So really just, I think that's why like a looper pedal is like super important, where if you want to practice like with these kind of things, because you can practice harmonizing with yourself. You can be like, oh, do I want to harmonize a major 7 from the Lydian mode, etc., etc. But yeah, basically just kind of try different chords, try it with this song, and then maybe just kind of like expand on your own. And if you have any questions or comments, please let me know.